Hello and welcome to the BurnCast. I'm Brady Byrne.
And I'm Kim Cass.
Today we're talking about Dream State. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Alright, hold on. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
I'm Tim Worth. Oh, man, I was so innocent in the beginning of this book, and now I've just lost all of that.
Let's finish talking about Dream State.
Let's finish talking about it. What a journey.
Yes.
I mean, you go on your own personal journey when you pick up this book.
Yeah.
I really believe that. You know, you have highs, you have lows. You learn things about yourself, your discomforts, your humor, your sanity gets put to the test.
Yes, it's true. And we finally finished reading it. So we've read chapters 7 and 8. And wow, what a finale.
Yeah, what a finale. And again, after the first portion, you know, I thought some things were going to happen. And then when we read the second part, all of my previous ideas were blown into smithereens. And then again, I had some ideas about what was going to happen. And again, they were blown into smithereens. Like, you just cannot predict this book. You just can't do it. Because this book exists in its own plane of existence. It defies all genres. You think it's a superhero book, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
It really is a dream state. It's got the best title of any book, I swear to God.
It really is. It's in a league of its own.
Yeah.
So we pick up back where we left off. Tim and the other two super people have just begun their great escape of the New Zealand militia's complex.
Yes.
And Frank Dunham has been killed by the overlords.
Yep, and they're trying to get out of the super prison that's not like a prison, but it is actually like a prison, and it is a prison.
Yes. And people are kept there almost as if they were prisoners.
Yes.
So again, we're going to have to break this down. So they're trying to leave, right? They're going through this complex. It's hard to really get a spatial orientation of where they are, but they're in an elevator, and the elevator stops.
Yeah. And this is a funny thing. In most of the books, we get too much explanation about how things look and what they are, you know.
Yeah.
And too much scene setting is poor. If you tell me, like, he's running through a hallway and then he bursts through a door, I get the picture. But in this, I couldn't figure the fuck out what, like, is he going up, down? Suddenly he's in the same place again?
Yeah.
It's like a mind maze, you know, which fits the book perfectly, really.
Yeah. So the elevator stops, and Tim has the plan to climb out the top of it. He says, we'll do what they do in the movies. We'll make our way up and out. And he says to one of the other super people, now give me a hand with the thing. You know, the thing that leads up and out of the elevator.
It's like he forgot what it was called, didn't search it up, and just said, oh, the characters don't know what it's called. Like, let's just go with that.
Yeah. And then Amanda says, you don't know what it's called? She laughs. And it says she snorted embarrassingly as she breathed in. And then it says, hey, Tim mocked. At least I didn't snort. And she says, shut up. Now, it's important to remember that Tim is 15 years old, but Amanda and Matthew are 34 and 41.
Yeah.
Yet they behave like children this entire time. So they climb out of the elevator, and then inexplicably the elevator starts flying up towards them.
Of course.
And it says in the narration, all three of the heroes made their way up the ladder post in haste. They're not heroes. Why are they called heroes? Especially not Tim.
Yeah.
As we know. But why would the other two be? The other two have been in captivity since they got their powers. Like, they didn't do shit.
And even within the context of the story, yeah. Tim is, like, telling them, like, you're not even what I thought you guys were. The stories about you are true. You aren't heroes. You're just scumbags. And then it's, like, the three heroes. And it's like, since when did they become heroes?
Yeah.
Since, like, they tried to rob a bank? Or since they killed another guy at a party? Like, at what point did they do anything heroic?
They didn't do shit. And then it says, now that the three had escaped, the entire dream system was in danger. Events were about to unfold that could not have been foreseen. No fucking kidding.
Yeah. And this is another time where, and this happens all the time within this book, and I began to only notice the trend here, but it always talks about things being orchestrated like they're a fucking musical. Everything is planned out and so specific.
Yeah.
It's like the complete opposite of what the story actually is. Like, nothing is planned out and nothing is orchestrated.
It's like a huge auditorium of people slamming on their instruments completely without any synchronization.
Yeah. It's so funny that he uses this so much, you know, that he's like, it felt like the whole thing was orchestrated, as if someone had intended them on being there. Then that feeling was confirmed when the elevator started to rise towards them. It made a slow but gradual climb towards them. The way it was moving, it would not stop until they were crushed on it. Like, how is that, like, even, what is the... Even if you're going like, oh, this is being orchestrated by someone else, it's still like, it's just an elevator going up. That could just be someone getting in and going, like, you instantly don't think that's being planned against you. And yet.
Yes. So they climb up out of the elevator shaft, and then the Overlord, who they keep calling the Porcelain Man, who killed Frank Dunham, just goes around, kills every guard in the base. Every single one. He murders them.
Yeah, because he has to cleanse the base. He has to cleanse it for some reason.
Yeah. And it says, Tim made it to the top of the ladder, but found that the elevator door was sealed tight. With a bit of professional scaling, Tim pulled himself up onto the tiny ledge. Why is he a professional? What does that mean?
Everything he does, he's already like a hardened veteran.
Yeah. So they climb up out of the elevator shaft, and they try to get out of the facility, but there are like magic metal bars appearing everywhere, and then the Overlord appears, and there's a very confusing scene in which we learn that the Overlord is the thing that killed Maxwell.
Yeah.
So it carried out Tim's vengeance for him, but it also hates Tim.
Yes.
Telling him that he's a thorn in its side. So why would it go after his bully?
Yeah.
But then it tells him that it wants Tim's suffering to last a lifetime. But it also explains that it killed Maxwell because he made Tim suffer. What?
The problem is, I could see that, like, you could have a. I'm trying to really get this. I'm trying to help the book here. So, the monster or the porcelain figure guy, he's selfish about his torture. He doesn't want anyone else torturing his plaything, you know, because right now Tim thinks that Maxwell is the ultimate bully, but the bad guy wants to be the ultimate bully, so he kills him, you know, because who cares about the bully? And so that he can be his sole tormentor, I guess.
Yeah. Except you're completely wrong, because it actually says... it actually says, the Porcelain Man says, I want to make your punishment last as long as I want it to. And then several lines later, he says about Maxwell, that boy was trouble. You were always our favorite pet project. So when Maxwell hurt you, I could not simply sit by while you suffered. So no, he's not doing it because he selfishly wants the suffering for himself.
But what were they doing with him? Like, what was the pet project? Like,
I don't know.
Like, what were they doing? Because he's just a normal kid, and then he just gets powers at one point because he killed himself?
Yeah. So they tell Tim that he's their pet project, their favorite pet project, but at the same time, they never intended him to have powers, that whoever's running the simulation is not in control of that. Tim's powers are like someone else helping him. So Tim was just a regular kid up until then. So why is he special at all?
Yeah.
Why is he their pet project if he's not even significant until someone else gives him powers?
Yeah. And why are they, like, what? He's special because he wants to save the world from them, and now they want to kill him to stop him from doing that.
Okay, and so then the Overlord tries to get Amanda and Matthew to join against Tim, and it does this by saying
this was the worst part for me, because they just banded together, these three guys in prison, you know, they just banded together, and then they trying to escape, and they're like, "Come on, guys, we've got to go," and they're like teasing each other, and it's all jokey, and then as soon as they run into the bad guy, the fucking Porcelain Man's just like, "But I can give you anything you want, Amanda. Like, come and join my side. And Matthew, come and join my side." Yeah, and they just both do.
Well, they don't just go over to his side that simply. The Porcelain Man tells them first, "Oh, you wouldn't believe what
people are saying about you."
Yeah.
Yeah, what people have been saying such horrendous things about you, and they're like, "Well, I can't have that. I better join you."
Yeah.
okay. And Matthew joins him like that, but Amanda winks at Tim as if she's going undercover, kinda.
Yeah.
But in what way? Because they already had a discussion in the previous chapters about how this was like a dream state, how this was like a simulation, yeah?
Yeah.
So they already know that these things control everything. So why would they think that they would get like...
Well, the porcelain man tells them that the world hates them because of the stories being told. But at the same time, no one knows about them because the New Zealand militia covered up their kidnappings. But for some reason, they just go with him anyways. Because it's better to be with the villain, who is the reason people tell bad stories about you. And then later, Matthew says he's like getting revenge. But who is he getting revenge against? He goes to like attack the city. He goes to start blowing shit up.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm getting my revenge, but your revenge is supposed to be against the fucking bad guy.
Yeah.
But instead you join him to kill innocent people? What?
Yeah, and the thing that I don't get is that when they're in prison, yeah?
Yeah.
Matthew and Amanda have this whole spiel about, like, how they actually did do the bad things that people said they did. Like, Amanda killed the guy that tried to date rape her, and Matthew tried to rob a bank. Didn't even rob a bank, just tried to rob a bank.
No. He didn't try to. It just says he was going to.
So that is unconvicted.
So one of them had only planned to do something non-lethal, and the other one accidentally killed someone who probably deserved it in the end.
And Tim, who probably has killed people.
Yeah, we don't know.
He's killed bad people, but he's also harmed innocent people.
Yeah.
Without much regard for, like, what they're doing. And Tim has the audacity to challenge these two on their morality.
Yeah.
So when they're in prison, Matthew is saying how, like, the world's not that simple. But the only person they want revenge against is Frank Dunham.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing else in there that's like, oh, you know, once I get out of here, I'm going to kill all those bastards that set me up, or
no,
none of that shit. Like, all of it. And then when Matthew's out, he's like, I'm going to get revenge on all you schmucks. Like, it's like, what, where, and how?
He goes for revenge on a city that just is full of innocent people who had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay, but so then Tim is all alone. He tries to escape the New Zealand militia's base.
Yeah, and also what the hell happened here? He takes an elevator up, okay?
Yeah.
So imagine, he's at the bottom of the prison. We got info about it's like a fortress with the prison underneath and the chambers at the top. So he's in the prison down the bottom.
Yeah.
And then they escape from that and they go up the elevator. Yeah. And then they're running along a corridor.
Yeah.
Where they get caught by this guy. Amanda and Matthew get taken away.
But then he ends up in a sewage treatment plant further underground, and but so Tim makes it quite easily out of this place, and even when we know he's home free, we still get like a whole scene of the New Zealand militia like charging in, and we cut back to our stoner guards who wake up from their stoner nap, and then the guards who are storming the base murder them.
Yeah.
Even though they're both working for the New Zealand militia.
And this is one of my favorite little paragraphs because it's so well done. So the guards going up to the military has arrived and they're about to kill these two stoner guards that are protecting the most highly, and they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
The military soldier came up behind the first guard. He made sure that he didn't make a sound as he took out an army knife and slit the guard's throat. Now that one had been taken care of, the second would be even easier. There were two options that the soldier could choose. He could either kill the guard, the same as the other, or he could flip him over the edge and fall to his death. And then it says, the time was nigh. The soldier cut the guard's throat, but still pushed him over the edge. It was a quick but painful death. If the knife didn't kill him, then the fall most certainly would have. But there was no time to muck around. The military had been called in for a reason. So, it's like, it goes through like the thought process of the military soldier. It's like, he cuts one guy's throat and he's like, now I could push him over the edge or I could cut his throat. And then he does both. Like,
it brings me back to Hard Target, where every bad guy got their own little like execution scene.
Yeah, except they were all badass, and this was just like
it's just like nonsensical.
Yeah.
But then I thought you were going to mention this paragraph, which is right next to that one. So the leader is talking to his other soldiers, and he says, "Okay, men, move into position and storm the front entrance."
Yeah.
Once inside, we need to head to the staircase in the dead center of the room. Tim is already gone, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, we've already seen him leave. And then one of the other soldiers just mumbles, like...
He literally says, okay.
Yeah. He responds to an order from his leader. He just says, okay. And then the leader says, who spoke out of turn? It was me, sir. Sorry. The lead soldier walked over to him and quickly shot him in the head with a silenced pistol. Speaking out of turn or disobeying orders was not tolerated at all.
What?
All he fucking did was say, okay.
And then he says, anybody got anything else to say? The leader eyeballed each and every one of the soldiers. Okay, these guys are about to, like, this is like a search and rescue operation, or at least search and destroy. And they're, like, standing outside the fucking base going, like, all right, guys, now I'm going to give you a quick pep talk. Nobody speak out of turn. Anybody got to say anything? Like, what? They don't seem to have the urgency that you might think.
No. So Tim somehow manages to escape through a sewage treatment plant, and he ends up in a lake. And it says there's a helicopter above him, and they shout from the helicopter, if anybody has attempted to flee from the scene, then you will be shot. Reveal yourself now, and you will avoid this.
Doesn't sound like he's
okay.
gonna get... He just shot one of his own soldiers for saying, okay. I'm not sure that this man is going to save anyone.
Reveal yourself, yeah. And so Tim gets back to the town of Stratford Pines, and then there's a whole paragraph here which makes no sense at all. And I know most of the story doesn't make sense, but this paragraph particularly. So he leaves.
What happened here? I was like, what? Did the book change? Did I miss something? Like,
you have this one paragraph, and it doesn't mention anything related to this for the rest of the book, but it just says, the entire town of Stratford Pines was mourning the death of the last founder's family. The death of Mr. Stratford was a significant loss to the town. He was the last remaining member of the founding fathers. With no children, no family, Mr. Stratford had left the town in a state of utter urgency to find at least one member. It was futile, though. The whole time that Tim had been locked away, the town had been searching for any family member to replace Mr. Stratford. All of the town's efforts were for naught. Who is that person?
Yeah, a couple of things. Mr. Stratford's the principal, right?
Really?
Yeah, he's the one that first convinces Tim to do hero stuff. Yeah?
Okay.
He's the person that is trying to get the teacher kicked out. Remember Mrs. Stratford, or like the lady there was a cheating thing that Tim was talking about with his mate?
God, it seems like that happened so long ago.
I know, it's crazy. Eh? And so this is Mr. Stratford, yes?
Okay.
And Mr. Stratford was taken by the militia and then killed. So he didn't go out looking for his last member, what it says here, because it says here that Mr. Stratford, unless this is a different Mr. Stratford, had left the town in a state of utter urgency to find at least one member. And I was like, what? Okay, is that the principal? Because he's already dead. So when did that happen? Like, when? And
so the whole town has been searching for someone to replace him now.
And for what purpose? Like, who cares if Mr. Stratford is dead? I thought the show was run by the New Zealand militia anyway. I thought they were in charge. And now we learn that the principal of the school is the founding family. Does that mean they are the governor or they're the mayor of the city? Or what about the councilman in the beginning? Who was he? Was he Mr. Stratford? Was that, like, where did he come from? And what happened to the secretary? Is she okay? Did her boss hurt her? Like,
well, we see what happens to the town. So Tim arrives back home, and people are disappearing mysteriously from the town, and it's inexplicably surrounded by what it compares to the Berlin Wall. And there are explosions coming from the center of the town. This is all in the span of, like, I guess not even an evening. Like, Tim has gone... Like, okay, in the morning he went to school, right? So a second day of school in the book, first day after his suicide attempt. Then he came home, his parents were murdered, and that evening he went to the New Zealand militia to break out the other two. That all happened. Several blackouts. I think it was maybe like one evening that he fell asleep, and then the next morning they tortured him, and now he's awake. And now when he gets back there is a great Berlin Wall built around the whole city in one day.
Yeah. And not only that, but, like, the whole town's been searching for, like, a family member, like, inexplicably.
Okay, so Tim runs up to this wall, and the militia is on top of it, and they start shooting at him, and it talks about how he just dodges all of the bullets, of course.
He just does.
He jumps up onto the wall, and he says, "Who wants to get knocked the F out?" Why is the dialogue like this? I mean, it wants so badly to be serious.
Yeah. And then every time Tim opens his mouth, it's like coming from like a child cartoon, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And what you skipped over something, Brady, something very important. This is also never talked about again. It says that the town is busy looking for the Stratford family, and it also says none of the citizens noticed people disappearing. Somehow, one by one, the people were being taken from the city. It was like they had never existed at all. It wasn't certain people that were vanishing. No, even some of the town's bigger celebrities were going missing. That's never touched up on again.
No.
Why is that even in there? Is there any relevance to that?
No, there isn't. And then we get an action scene. So Tim is on top of the Great Wall now, and from the direct line after he says, "Who wants to get knocked the F out?" This is the entirety of the next action scene. Okay, so the very next line, it says...
And you try to figure out what happened. Because I couldn't.
Yeah. At the very next line, it says, "Militia charged at Tim with their guns blazing. But Tim didn't want a gunfight. He used the men's own attacks against them. So as each member of the militia got close enough, Tim would beat the hell out of them, rendering them unconscious. It took no more than a minute to knock them all of their perch. Then Tim made a dash for the city." That's the whole action scene.
So what is happening there? I'm not sure these militia guys know how to use guns because they charge at him with them.
While they're shooting, yeah.
But then Tim doesn't want a gunfight, so he uses their own attacks against them. So he uses their gunshots to beat them up.
No, the bullets just fucking disappear again.
Yeah.
It just says they're shooting at him, and it just says then he punched them. Like, where are the bullets?
And also, like, this is not the first time that Tim has been shot at point blank range, basically, and just the bullets are ignored.
Yeah.
From the cannon. Like, then Tim makes a dash to the city.
Yes, and there he finds Matthew blowing everything up. And he pleads with him, "Don't do this." And Matthew says, "You're not the boss of me." And then Tim says, "We'll see about that." And Matthew says, "Then come and get some." Again, one of these characters is supposed to be 15. And the other one is supposed to be fucking 41.
And not to mention, so when I was looking at this book online, it said that this book was made for 8 to 18-year-olds.
What?
Yeah, so that's not the reading age. That was like the, market age or whatever.
Okay.
It said that on Amazon. And I was like, well, I wouldn't give this to an 8-year-old to read.
No, there are some extremely graphic, violent scenes.
Yeah, and then I certainly wouldn't give it to an 18-year-old because an 18-year-old would never take it seriously, right? Like,
no.
And I'm talking about not like giving them the book to have a good laugh, because that's what you do get out of it.
Yeah. Okay, and then they fight. Matthew
I have some problems here again because it has set up the Amanda and Matthew superhero characters. Amanda can possess people's minds.
And also has super screech voice, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
That was ad-libbed.
Yeah, ad-lib. And Matthew was set up to have lightning power.
Yeah.
Okay, now what we get in this scene is that he also has a super shield. Yes? He's got a super shield, which he didn't use before in, like, the cage, like, when he was being...
No,
none of that shit. And now, we also find out that he has the power to make inanimate objects come to life. In some way. Like, and what he does is he smashes Tim into a shop window filled with mannequins. And the mannequins soften the blow. But then he uses his magic powers on the mannequins, and they create some gigantic mannequin monstrosity.
Yeah.
And it's a big beast. And To be honest, it's such a funny thing to use because out of all things, plastic mannequins, not the most intimidating object to come to life.
No.
Like, it's kind of rigid and stupid looking.
Yeah, but then it also says, with no idea how to beat something that is made out of nothing more than plastic was a mystery to Tim. It's just plastic. He's been fucking ripping steel bars apart this entire fucking story. Like,
hey, you send fucking cars flying with his tornado attack. Use that shit on him, or freeze him, or use your basketball purple power. I don't know what it is, but he can shoot basketball purple out of his hands. And use that shit, or just punch him, or something. Like, where is the critical thinking?
I don't know, but.
No shit, he's made out of plastic. I can't be that. Like,
yeah, and I mean, this fight scene is amazing. It goes on for a little while with Tim trying to fight this mannequin, and he cannot figure out how to defeat something made of plastic until Matthew says, "What are you afraid of, Tim? It's just a bunch of plastic parts." And then it says music to his ears. Tim heard what Matthew said and instantly programmed it in his head. What is he programming? What? And then it says, "What is the weakness of plastic?" ? Fire. Of course. Yeah. Tim took hold of a part of a window frame and ripped it off. It was the right length to set on fire and not have to worry about self-harm. And then he lights it on fire with like
using electrical wires that are sparking on the ground.
But then Matthew tries to electrocute Tim, but then he hits the mannequin monster, which then goes after Matthew, and it has a whole dialogue with him. The mannequin monster talks with him about, like, you gave me life, and now you're trying to destroy me. It's like the entire book of Frankenstein, like in these last 2 paragraphs.
Yeah, and a few paragraphs, yeah. What's weirder is that, like, so the beast turns on its creator, and then when it's in its moment of weakness, Tim thrusts the flaming piece of wood into its back and it like explodes into flames.
Yeah. It says Tim ran over to the mannequin and stabbed the flaming wood into it. Seeing as to how flammable plastic is, massive flames erupted from within it. The mannequin screamed in pain as the fire engulfed it. The scene was as tragic as it was ironic, not very. Yes, because when you touch flames to plastic, it makes a giant pillar of flame explosion.
Oh my god.
Well, the mannequin monster stomps on Matthew.
And he dies.
He dies. And then the Overlord shows up, and he's got Amanda there, and then he opens his coat. The Overlord opens his coat and Jody falls out.
Yeah.
And then...
and okay, this is also the scene. This is the last scene with Jody in it. This is the last scene with Jody in it, okay?
Yeah.
Like, the whole time he's like, I have to save...
No, she falls out of his coat and then that's it. She's never seen it again.
And I thought that... So I forgot about this, but fucking Tim went to the base to save Jody, and he gets there, gets locked up, and then just escapes. He forgot about Jody. He didn't even fucking... That shit is gone. That's old. Yes. He couldn't do that, so he just runs out. And then he, like, heads back to town. So, mission not accomplished, actually, no. Tim. Mission not accomplished. Because you didn't, like... my God. Please. And now Jody falls out of the thing, and it says that she's unharmed. She's gagged and bound, but unharmed.
And then we never see her again. She just... stays there.
Yeah, she just stays there.
Yeah, Amanda helps Tim fight the Overlord, but then the Overlord kills Amanda.
Yeah, in the weirdest way too. Like a hand just comes out from his cloak with a knife, and it just stabs into her, and
she dies.
That's it. Like,
and Tim says, "You had better make sure that you run now, or I will kill you." And it says, "You would dare threaten me? I am a god compared to you. You know what they say about old gods. What? They all said the same thing. They would live forever. And your point is, I'm about to open a whole can of ass kicking on you." And then the Overlord tells Tim that they are done gathering data on humanity and that they're going to shut down the simulation. And they have dialogue. It just says, I can't do it. I can't even read it anymore.
Well, just read it out. That's the only way to do it. It doesn't matter anymore. You have proven to us that your species is no longer feasible for us to gain data. We do not require your assistance from this point on. What does that mean? We are, how you would say, pulling the plug. On what? Everything. We built this dream world so you could exist without fear or worry. But now that we know that you are still arrogant, we are going to pull the plug on our venture. We truly hope you have enjoyed your guilt-free leisure. Are you going to shut down this world? Like, he's not getting the point.
No.
He keeps asking, are you going to shut down this world? Yes, I did try to warn you not to meddle. When did you warn?
He didn't.
When did that happen? So now we have to turn off the machines, erase the existing codes, and create a new world. I thought you said you were going to pull the plug, that you weren't going to gather more data. Now you're saying that you're going to create a new world? So and that's not Tim saying that. That's me commenting on the. So you're going to put everyone in stasis while you create a new world? Precisely. Okay, Tim, you just guessed that.
Yeah.
He didn't tell you that he was going to put everyone in stasis. You just said, so you're going to put everyone in, and then he says precisely, Tim, I feel like you already know what's going on.
Yeah, and then it says, who is going to stop us, Timothy? You? If I have to, then yes. Ha! Don't make me laugh. Then fight me. And the thing says, and what is the prize if I win this fight of yours?
I hated this part.
And Tim says, you get to erase me. Interesting. But if I win, says Tim, you have to leave this world alone. And it says, not going to happen. Then name your prize. I am to be extracted at any given moment. If I win, you can leave this world and return to your real body. And Tim says, I could live in my actual body? Yes, a prize like no other. All right, good, but I get to go first. And then it says, a new fight had commenced. The porcelain figure leaned forward and picked Tim up off the ground with 2 hands. Both hands wrapped right around Tim's torso, allowing maximum control. He lifted both himself and Tim up in the air.
I love how it comments on, like, the maximum control. Like, the best way to control someone with your magical hands is to get them right around the torso.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And so it picks him up, and Tim thwacks it and stabs its foot with glass. And then the thing screams. And then Tim says, what in the name of all things holy? He rolls his eyes in disbelief. And the overlord, the ruler of all reality, says, you have pushed my buttons. And Tim says, you have buttons? The coat that the porcelain figure was wearing ripped and fell apart. What was revealed was more grotesque than anyone could have imagined. The porcelain figure's body was nothing more than a blob of black tar. The tar had somehow been shaped into the form of a larger male. So the most grotesque thing that anybody could ever imagine is a nondescript blob of black goo.
Well, yeah, in the shape of a larger male.
Oh, that's horrifying. And then Tim says, what the hell are you? And it says, I'm your worst nightmare. And then, like 3 lines later, he literally asks again, what the hell are you? And it says, your worst nightmare. Twice.
Yeah, that line's just so good that you need it twice.
Yeah.
And also, this is actually, I think, the 4th time that those 2 lines are said in conjunction. It's also said when Maxwell is being killed by the thing as well. He says, what the hell are you? And he says, I'm your worst nightmare.
Oh yeah, it's like a catchphrase for this thing. So anyways, the thing takes its mask off and it's like a spider thing, and it tells Tim that its name is Delta 42.
What a twist.
And then the big climax is that Tim runs to a power plant, and he ends up on a roof where there are satellite dishes for no reason.
It's a power plant. It's no fucking... Why are there satellite dishes up there?
It doesn't matter. And this is how the big fight ends. When Delta 42 charged at him, Tim dodged to his left, allowing Delta 42 to fall over the edge of the building. It was all planned out precisely. Tim discovered that Delta 42 had a listening problem, something that would boost his anger, ultimately pushing him over the edge and away from reasoning. No, screamed Delta 42. His hands were grabbing hold of the ledge of the building. You let your anger get the better of you. You basically signed your own death warrant. Please, 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 don't let me fall. You're the hero. You wouldn't let me fall, right? And Tim says, I could help you up, if you agree not to harm me. Never. Then I guess I'll just leave. No, wait. Okay, just pull me up. And Tim says, good boy. And then he pulls it up.
You're a dog.
But, okay, so this godlike overlord wouldn't survive a fall off of a small building?
I thought he, launched him into the air before.
I thought he could fly and shit. He also is immaterial because he, ascended out of the floor at the complex.
Yeah, and he's a spider.
Like a giant spider.
Yeah, they could surely climb up a wall, right?
No, if he falls off this building, that's it for him.
But I guess it's he's falling down onto the, electricity, right? So it's not the fall that kills him, but
why would he die to electricity?
Yeah. Move past it.
So Tim helps it up, and then it pulls him off along with it, and they both fall on some power lines, and they both get electrocuted to death. And then we get into the final chapter.
I also love how this death scene is so funny, because he falls down, and it says the time had come, the day that Timothy Worth would meet his fate, his death. The very last images that Tim saw were Delta 42 falling, the Earth getting ever closer, and the power lines reach even more forward. And with that being said, Tim hit the power lines. Volts of immeasurable energy shot through every atom of his body, cell after cell, molecule after molecule, erupting in perfect harmony. Tim's death was quick and painless. He never felt the impact or the electricity fry him. None of it remained. Everything faded into darkness, beautifully choreographed like a musical. What? Choreographed like a musical? In what musical?
The imagery of a 15-year-old being fried to death is beautiful.
That's not...
And choreographed like a musical.
Oh my god! And yeah, wow, what a death scene.
Yeah. So, final chapter.
Yeah.
Tim wakes up in a fluid container, just like the Matrix.
Yes.
And some other spider person tries to kill him.
Yes. And in the weirdest way, what? I was not clear on what was going on, but he puts a pipe down his throat so he can breathe.
Right.
Right? Because he can't breathe originally.
Just like the Matrix.
Yeah. And then...
Exactly like the Matrix.
The arachnid things are the arachnid things are arachnids in the real world, but they also have bodies in the dream state, and they're called different versions of Delta. One of them's Delta 42 and then Delta 52, but the one that is trying to kill him now is just called Delta, and he's angry because he killed Delta 42 in the dream world, and the other arachnid who is also there is trying to stop him from killing the human, and he's called Delta 52, but he's called Delta 52 in the real world.
Yeah.
So you've got three main elements here, three main arachnids. You've got Delta 42 in the dream state.
Yeah.
You've got Delta, who plays Delta 42 in the real world, and then you've got Delta 52 in the real world.
Well, no, Delta doesn't play Delta 42. For some reason, he yells at Tim for killing Delta 42, even though Tim also died, but now he's awake in the real world. So it's not as if you die in the dream world, you also die in real life, because Tim is alive. But for some reason, the other Delta is dead, and that's why the main Delta is mad. But then the other Delta, number 52, is the one who gave Tim the powers?
Okay, so... But Delta within the real world can't be the big boss, because they go to this trial to argue their case for Tim's execution or whatever.
Yeah. well, they deliver exposition to themselves about their own history, which is
yeah. I love this. And also, they must have left him behind for this.
Yeah,
they must have left him behind, because they go and then Tim bursts through into this council meeting naked with a tube in his mouth, and they're how did he get in here?
Yeah.
So the arachnids just left him when they did this.
The arachnid species talk to themselves, and they tell each other, who already know about themselves, we are arachnids. We came here to help mankind achieve world peace. Yet they saw all of us as monsters because of the way we look. We came here out of the goodness of our hearts. No harm was to be made. What do you expect? Our distant cousins exist here on Earth. Humans fear things that are different from themselves. How else did you think they would react towards us? So, spiders evolved into outer space who have cousins
on Earth.
No. I'm not even going to finish that thought. Like, I'm not even going to try.
I figured out the web.
I'm not even going to try.
I figured it out. Okay, so the arachnids are a different species, but they are related to. They've got distant cousins on Earth. They came to Earth to help them. But the humans wanted their technology for domination, and the arachnids wouldn't give them. And then apparently the humans were going to destroy the arachnids because they wanted the technology. So the arachnids didn't want them to do that. So they put them all into a dream state where they put them into a world which doesn't really exist. And they're trying to help the humans still by keeping them in permanent stasis, and they also still want to save them, but they can't let them do anything because they're dangerous. And also, the arachnids are trying to get control over the dream world because they want power for themselves in a world that doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. That's almost exactly how the book explains it too.
Wow. Mind blown. This
and that all takes place in the span of like 2 paragraphs.
You need a high IQ for this book, all right?
No, you actually do.
And of course, so Delta and Delta 52 are arguing in front of the the deciding judge or arachnid lady.
Yes, because Delta 52 was the one who gave Tim the powers to help him escape the dream world.
Which is against the ruling because you're not allowed to give humans power in a world that you control because that's against
spider law.
That's like betrayal.
It's against spider law.
And Delta is in trouble because he tried to get control over the human world through making Frank Dunham the power man.
Yeah, and so the council, anything they hear, they make their decision based on the last thing that they heard. Yeah. At first, Delta's like, "Oh, this guy, he helped Tim get powers," and they're like, "Execute him." And then Delta 52 is like, "Wait, but he, tried to rule them with Frank Dunham," and they're like, "Okay,
execute him.
52, you're free to go." And they say, "I find no reason to arrest this man. He did only what he thought was best." And they arrest the other spider instead. And then it says, Tim staggered into the chamber. The only piece of clothing he had on was a pair of briefs. And then in parentheses, it says, male underwear.
Yeah.
Is this book for spider people who don't know what that is? Okay. And then the spiders also want to charge Tim with murder. But the one who gave him the powers says, Your Majesty, the human boy is no threat. He used his abilities to save people, not hurt them, nor for self-gain. Still trying to convince us of that. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
And then the council says, so he purely did what he thought was right. Yes. Oh, then he shall be excused. So in this world of Spider-Man, you can do basically anything. Doesn't matter how evil it is, and get away with it as long as you believe that it was right.
And not really, because like all you need to do is say that you did, right? They have no proof of that.
Yeah, they don't check it.
The guy just went in there and like, nah, gee, he honestly thought he was doing the right thing when he robbed that bank or threw tornadoes all over the place. He's a good guy. Like, and they're like, okay. And then it says, we could put him back to sleep or keep him awake. Agreed. What do you want, boy? And then he says, what do I want? Yes. You're asking me? Yes. I want nothing more than to ... epilogue.
Yes.
So I actually really enjoyed that there was an epilogue in this because I really needed to know what the fuck happens now.
Yeah.
Because what happened to Stratford Pines? What about Mrs. Stratford, the teacher? I guess Mr. Stratford's dead now, so she doesn't have to worry about being kicked out from the school. But Tim didn't have anything to do with that, so he didn't really solve that issue.
Well, actually, yes, he did, because it says, this is the full epilogue. It says, with Tim in charge, the dream world was repaired. Oh, great. They put him in charge of the whole fucking world now.
Yeah, they put him in charge, and he just repaired it.
Yeah. It says, humanity was given back the reins of which path it would take to survive, even though they're still in a fucking mindless simulation.
Yeah.
No more watchers, no more manipulation. Mankind would now have the choice of which direction it would choose. As long as it's in our confined space of ultimate domination.
Yeah, as long as they're in the breeding vats.
But that isn't to explain what happened to Tim himself. Did he rejoin his family inside of the dream world? Or did he remain in the real world so he could keep watch? With his guidance, the arachnids rebuilt the dream world.
Yeah, I love how it's like, with Tim's guidance.
Yeah, he knows best. All those who had been murdered by Delta's authority were brought back. When they had died, their subconscious mind would go blank. No pain, no death, nothing. They just slept. Each and every one of them was brought back to life. The system was given a full reboot, and more importantly, Tim's family was revived. He made that his personal goal. Amanda and Matthew? They were given new life as well. Without the militia controlling everything, there was nothing for the two to fret. They had their memory returned to them. All events that had taken place were kept. Both of them remembered everything. And as for their abilities, well, they get to keep them.
But Matthew fucking was a bad guy! He was murdering people! He was blowing up buildings!
But he thought he was doing the right thing, Kim. This absolves him of all of his crimes. It says, they were allowed to keep their powers, but when they were given them, Tim made sure that their coding kept them on the right path. No self-gain. So the dream world was now safe. No more evil to manipulate it. Except for the evil of Tim Worth.
Yeah.
Who manipulates everything from his arachnid throne.
Yeah. And what? So Amanda and Matthew get to remember everything, but Tim also goes into their brain and rewires them so that they're actually, like, don't have any control over what they're fucking doing.
Yeah.
What a dream life.
Yeah, Tim's dream. It says the millions of humans that survived the war were also kept in pods like Tim. Truth be told, the same room which Tim had been woken up in was where thousands were also stored. All of their pods sticking halfway out of the wall. Perfect lines going from floor to ceiling. Hundreds of rooms filled with pods. Mankind's final resting place.
That sounds fucked up.
Yeah, it sounds awful. But what of Tim? Well, some stories are better off not being told.
Thanks. Great. Yeah, no, to be honest, yeah, Tim Worth, you live with the spiders, G. You might like it better there anyway.
And I can't agree more with that final line. Truly.
Yeah, some stories should be never told. Also, what the fuck? You're introducing new things here already. In the last paragraph, you say that millions of humans that survived the war. What war? What war? When was there a war?
There was a battle in Stratford Pines. That's the whole world.
Stratford? No, it was just Matthew blowing up buildings.
The war between man and the spiders. And let's not forget that this is the Tim Worth Chronicles, which means that there might be more of these books being made right now.
Wow. And let's hope that there are.
Yes. So, we've talked far too much about this book now and the story.
Yeah.
Let's start off by saying that, we've criticized this book heavily because of the very fact that we paid for it.
Yeah.
And we've said this before, but when you charge for something that...
It becomes open to critique.
Yes.
The way that we explain it is that if I go out and I buy a sandwich for my money and it says sandwich, which could entail that there's anything inside of it.
Yeah.
Right? There's no rules about what should be in a sandwich.
No, a sandwich is 2 pieces of bread with something in between. Hopefully something edible.
Yeah, and if I bite into it and it's filled with shit, then I am open to criticize that sandwich, Yeah. And I might not like the taste of a shit sandwich, but that's what critique is.
Most people would put it down after one bite, but we eat the whole thing.
We eat the whole thing. We eat the whole thing. And we tell you what each bite was like.
Yeah. And so, we're mentioning this because we've done some background research into this book, and it came to our attention actually through a Reddit comment, which suggested we take a look at it.
Yes.
Because this book was actually up on Kickstarter, and it was asking for $3,500 to fund the book. And on the Kickstarter, it does say, a book publisher has been in contact with me and has offered the chance to go pro. I do, however, need some financial assistance. I want to finally publish a book that has been 4 years in the making. It has been a lifelong dream to fully publish my work and have been contacted by a publishing agency to do so. They want to offer me a contract, but it does come with a price. The book is amazing and has something for everybody. From superheroes to villains, controversial topics to topics least talked about. And with a twist nobody could see coming, this book has something for everyone. I want to share this book with the world, but being a father to one and health issues, I am very limited. With your help, I can accept the offer and finally bring my vision to the world. It says risks and challenges. I have next to no budget. The agency needs payment first, and I cannot begin to work with the agency until I can pay. So, first of all, we want to highlight this. This is very important. If a publisher tells you that they will give you a contract to publish your book, but they want you to pay first, that is not a real publisher.
That is a scam.
Yes, that is a scam.
And without getting into the ins and outs of it, the basic concept is that, a publisher is there to publish your work. They aren't going to request money from you to do that. Now, this is probably not the place to get publishing advice, but in short, there are things like the Vanity Press, and they have their applications, right? Let's say you write a book on something very specific, like a scientific subject.
Yeah.
And you need the book to be out there, but you're not trying to make money off it. So you just need it available for print. The Vanity Press or self-publishing industry, they'll take that, they'll make it available for purchase, but it's not a good way for you to make money because their fees are quite high on the sales of the book. So, but they're not expecting to get many sales out of that, so they need to take a larger cut of the book. That's how that system works.
Yeah. And the same goes to a lesser extent. Instead of asking you to pay, they'll tell you to, market the book yourself, pay for your own advertising, which is also not how it's normally done. The publisher is literally there to do that for you. That's their job.
Yeah. This sort of information is readily available, and you can go online and ask the hundreds of thousands of people out there that are in this business, and you will get good advice and information.
Yeah.
The thing that you shouldn't do is go to predatory businesses that basically will publish anything that you want, providing that you pay the money.
Yeah.
And if you can't see the error in that system,
So why do we bring this up? Well, because while we have, frankly, torn this book to shreds,
yes,
we loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. It is one of the most entertaining, mind-melding things I have ever read.
Yeah.
And, we do not want to discourage Mr. Rayner Ramsay from continuing to write. This is not a manifest on why he should quit writing or why anyone should quit writing.
No.
If you see your book pop up on our show, that should encourage you to write something better.
Yeah.
Because in the end, that is what we want. We are not here to talk a bunch of shit and get people to quit writing. We want people's writing to be better. We want them to be the writers that they themselves hope to be. But that's not going to happen if scam publishers are out there preying on people who don't know better and trying to suck the life out of these very interesting stories.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad place because, they're always going after the people that are vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
They haven't got all the information. They have what they consider as a piece of art, something that they've put a lot of effort into, and to take advantage of that is so low on the spectrum of honor or respectability that it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
But I think, something that I think the show does from my perspective, and that I would love for, anybody really is, if you write a book and self-publish it on Amazon or something like that, it's very rare that someone's going to read that, not at this level. And to get a whole fucking discussion on it, two people reading it and pulling it apart, and, perhaps with a little bit of comedic aspect there, but, I mean, that's as good an analysis as you're going to get. Come on.
Yeah, and to be honest, giving it a very fair shake.
Yeah.
Like we've said before, we always go into these books with a measured look at what they're trying to achieve. We try to say, what is the actual point of this? What is the thing that got them to write this?
Yeah.
And in the case of Dream State, there are some very clear themes. It is about the consequences of bullying, basically.
Yeah.
And the reaction to that from the people who are the bullies. That Tim becomes powerful in spite of the people who tried to bring him down. And against all odds, he triumphs. And that is delivered in a nonsensical fashion, completely hard to even comprehend at times. But there is a message there.
Yeah.
And it is genuine. It's from a place that is trying to say something good. And we want to do the same.
Yeah.
we are here to critique and comment and at times make fun because we want it to be better.
Yeah.
We want the next Tim Worth Chronicles book to be good.
Yeah. I have this idea in my head that what do you compare this book to? Like, what do you compare any amateur book to? Like, I think people have this idea in their heads of, like, you wouldn't compare a painting someone made, you know, to the best paintings of all time.
No.
And for some reason, with books, if someone writes a book, you know, they're instantly compared to, like, every fucking, you know, masterpiece that anyone's ever written.
Yeah.
And that's unfair. There should be a great deal of distance between. You can write a good book that's not, you know, going to sell well.
Yeah.
Like, frankly, I know really good authors that don't make enough money to pay their divorce bills,
Yeah.
you know? Like, it's shocking, but, like, it's sad. And they really write well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what writing is in terms of, it's not a good money-making strategy, but it's also, I think, a reflection of how you can't take monetary value or anything like that and place it on how good these products are. And you shouldn't, really.
Absolutely. And, you know, in the end, this is a book that someone poured their heart into. And all of the books that we've read have been.
No.
Well,
excuse me. The fucking Apocalypse Deception, he poured his dick into that. Nothing else, all right?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll rephrase then. Some of them have clearly a kernel of passion in them. Some of them are cynical, and some of them are barely books at all.
Yeah.
You know, but this one, you can tell that there is a genuine drive to tell a story here, and that this book is written with passion.
Yeah.
And that, you know, there's a core message that they're trying to get out. There's clearly some imagination behind it. And that's not to be struck down. And it's very unfortunate that there are people out there who want to prey on that.
Yeah.
And clearly just want to suck a quick bit of cash out of the person writing it to give them a false sense that they have achieved what every writer wants, which is to be published, to be recognized, to be validated for the time and effort and creativity that they've put into it.
Yeah.
And that people are out there trying to exploit that is awful.
Yeah.
And so perhaps take this very long expose as that. You know, that the Tim Worth Chronicles, it didn't meet its Kickstarter. It's not going to get published. But it is going to be on the BurnCast. And there are two people who will sit down for well above 3 hours to talk about it.
Yeah.
And to give it the spotlight that maybe not the one
it wanted. But to give it a spotlight.
But to give it a spotlight.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like one of these things, you know? It never intended to be what it is, but it is somehow beautiful.
It's excellent.
A whirlwind of craziness and just, I mean, I've never had something that line after line after line is just, you're bewildering.
Yeah.
You know, and it spins you around and around in its little world that doesn't make any sense. And yet, I read this whole book. I cannot say that for a lot of the other ones I've read.
You're absolutely right. A lot of the other books, we skip giant portions of them. And in this book, I read every single line because although it fails to tell a good story in a lot of places, it has succeeded in doing what books are meant to do, which is to engage me on every single line and make me really think about what I'm reading.
Yeah. And isn't that better than writing a story that's just boring trash?
Yeah, it's much better than writing, you know, another kid gets superheroes and fights the bullies story. No, this has transcended that. It really has.
And, I mean, if you're still listening, go out and just buy it. Just buy it.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm rescinding my earlier comments. Go out and fucking buy Dream State. The author deserves it, and you owe it to yourself to give this book a shot.
Yeah. Flip to any page. Just you can start on any page you want. It doesn't really matter because the story starts on every line. Like, and just enjoy it. Just enjoy it for what it is, you know. And don't try and pass it together like we have. Just
yeah, you might not make it out.
Just hold on. just hold on.
We're gonna have to separate the show now. Pre-Dream State and post-Dream State.
Yeah. The next book that we do, I say we try to remove Dream State from our minds as best we can and look at things from a completely fresh start.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because otherwise we'll just read that book and we'll just be like, but in dream state, all this shit happened. And like, this isn't dream state. Why am I even reading this,
Yeah.
And we need a complete restart. So
yeah, we're going to find something innocent.
But episode 1 of the BurnCast, season 3, finished.
Yeah.
Look at that. Moving on. And sorry it took so long.
Yeah. But, if this is a testament to anything, it's that we're in it for the long run.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But what of Tim?
Well,
what of Tim? Well, some stories are better off not being told.
And we stand in defiance to that line because we're here to tell that story.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening and supporting the show. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe and join in the conversation with us on one of our platforms. You can support the show through Patreon, and more so by simply sharing the podcast with your friends. If you have a book you want to suggest, just message us anywhere and we'll consider it for the show. Thanks.